Good morning. Welcome to Live with Liz. Happy Wednesday. Hope you're having a great week. Oh, I think it's time for my annual apology to everyone. So I'm sorry if I've wronged you, if I've delayed in responding, if I haven't delivered quite what you expected. And yeah, I think there's always something to apologize for, right? If you're somebody who feels like I've wronged you specifically, please reach out to me. I would love the chance to talk with you in person and one-on-one. But this is kind of a public apology. And if you don't know what this is all about, it's a cultural thing. And I think it's just healthy to get that off of our chests at least once a year. So there it is for me. Anyway, today we're talking about specificity, specifically about specificity and finding your niche for your law practice and your legal services. And this is super important for law firms that are digitizing, who want to be found. And not that it wasn't important before, but now, especially with everyone focusing on the digital way of doing business and law as a business, that specificity becomes even more key to being more successful with your practice, becoming more credible as an expert in a particular area, and being found for it. One of the issues now is that when clients are searching for attorneys everywhere, there are just so many, and there are so many results when you go look, that what ends up happening is people just kind of revert to what's tried and true. That's where word of mouth still becomes important, and referrals from friends and other corporations become even more relevant because there is so much noise and it is difficult to find a practitioner who's exactly specified in the area that you need. So when we think about what the client journey is to finding their legal representation and the law firms that they need, think about how they search. But if we take it even a step further back and say, what is it that they need? And we're responding to that need, then it will be more easy for us to be found when they actually go and search for you. So when we think about how they're looking, when I was in-house, what do I need? It changes based on the industries that we're in. It changes based on the specific legal services that we need. And we have to take these things into consideration as we identify what that target is for us and what our niche is when we're marketing to the public. So what do I mean by that? This is probably easier to understand in the context of law firms that offer services that are direct to consumer, the family law firms and estate planning, elder care, and for people who can be super specific. And you can be specific in a number of ways. Location is the first one that comes to mind, and one that is the traditional search engine optimization consideration. So say you're a divorce attorney, but you're a divorce attorney just in Tampa, Florida. And you might say, I could be even more specific than that. I'm a guy and I only want to work with guys. So I'm a divorce lawyer just for men, or I'm a divorce lawyer just for dads. And I've actually seen that. That's why I have this example in my mind, but that somebody was so specific and said, I'm going to build my practice around being the guy who helps dads in divorce. And that made him the go-to guy for dads getting divorced in Tampa, Florida. And I just made up the location for that one. I'm sorry, divorced ad lawyer, if you're out there and you ever see this. I don't know where you are, but I know you exist, and I did see your information somewhere. So this is what I mean when we talk about being specific and finding that target to be able to really market your services to a particular audience. And the same is true on the corporate side. And what ends up happening, and this is something that I noticed early on in my career, is that when I say, well, what's your background or what's your specialty? And I might get a legal service out of someone. Well, I do IP. Okay, well, what specific area of IP? Well, all IP. Really? All IP? Okay. And do you focus on a particular industry? Well, we do all industries. All industries and all IP. Well, to me, that sounds very broad. And what if I'm in a particular industry and I have a need for someone who has an expert understanding, an elevated level of knowledge in a particular industry? I'm going to look for an expert in that industry and not the generalist. Now, I came across, as I was thinking about this, a quote from somebody named Stephen Fairley. I'm not sure who this person is, but the quote kind of resonated with me, and it was, practice as a generalist, but market as a specific expert. And I'm getting the quote all wrong, but you get the idea. You don't want to sacrifice the generality of your practice, and you know that you have the acumen and the legal skills and background to be able to service people in a lot of different areas and in a lot of different industries where the legal services are applicable across a broad range of areas. And it just is true that certain, especially on the administrative side, procedures do apply across a broad spectrum, and that certain things that people go through to secure patent rights or trademark rights, whether it be in oil and gas or in agriculture or, in new technologies, they'll have similar needs. And then there are areas of law and practice that require advanced specificity. And when I'm thinking about the attorneys, not just for that one particular service, and this is the important part that people maybe are missing while they think they're capturing things by being more general, I want that expert to not only handle what I'm hiring them for, but I'm thinking about the future additional services that I need, and someone who really gets me, understands my business, understands my market, understands my industry. And if they can do this for me, the broad service, the general services that are necessary that maybe they could do for any industry, but they have that particular knowledge, I'm going with that guy or lady. I am going to hire that woman who knows exactly what I need for this industry, even though maybe anyone could have done it, because later on, when there's a dispute, or if I need enforcement assistance or a more lucrative whole litigation representative, then I'm going to go to the person who I know knows my industry, even though, sure, they could work in any area out there. So when you're trying to get this focus, you can think about it in terms of location as adding one level of specificity, and I think about it in kind of layers. You don't have to specify just one particular industry. You can choose 2 or 3, especially if they're related, and that industry is another layer. Another layer might be going deeper into your industry. And someone brought up to me yesterday, working in a particular practice area like anti-counterfeiting or anti-piracy. And where does that really fit? Well, that is part of enforcement. Does that go with intellectual property law, or does that go with corporate law? Well, do you particularly work with consumer goods or, like handbags and shoes? Or are you the one who goes and seizes food and drug counterfeits? And can you create a niche for yourself doing that in your particular jurisdiction where it is a problem and where pharmaceutical companies are looking for someone who has been involved in this process, identifying and dealing with the enforcement needed to combat piracy in this one particular area? So this is what I mean by adding layers to your specificity, and to be able to capitalize on that by utilizing it in your digital marketing efforts and being able to reach the audience that is looking for those particular skills. Now, you don't have to sacrifice the rest of it just because you're being specific in one certain area. This is where you can really plan and target based on specificity in your niche, but not to the exclusion of everything else that you still have. The broader your firm, the bigger your firm, the additional practice representatives you have, they can all have a niche and can become experts in their own right, all under the same umbrella. So that's one way to at least be able to cover a lot of territory and a lot of different practice areas and industries by having different people who are experts in those particular sections. And you can work together and build out your teams and think about what they look like for particular industries. I don't want to go to your website and say, I'm looking for someone who can deal with a specific type of law in a specific industry. And if you have a lot of practitioners, but no one shows up, it's a problem. You need to be able to identify someone who has these particular skills and this particular background to help in a particular industry. The question comes up a lot, is an industry a practice area? That's a question that often gets asked when we're looking at communicating legal services and structuring how you represent people and what you're offering them. So I worked with an attorney who insisted that oil and gas was a separate practice area and it wasn't an industry focus. And she made a very good point to me at the time that was, if an industry has a particular set of laws or regulations that apply only to that industry, then we may consider it as a practice area. But I say take that step back and look at how your clients are trying to find you and look at what their needs actually are, and then make a decision about how you want to market that area of expertise to your client and that niche to your client so that they can find you effectively. Am I going to look for oil and gas attorney litigation in the country or the city or the jurisdiction? You bet I am. So maybe she had a point. So I would say, if you have that area of expertise in a particular niche or in a particular industry, you can elevate that and focus on it as your niche and keep it as a practice area, even though it may be classified as an industry. Perhaps you don't want to list it that way on your website and you want to evaluate what that really looks like. So once you have established your niche and once you've communicated it properly and effectively for you, you're going to really start to build out your credibility in this particular area. You're going to do that in a lot of different ways. You'll blog about your niche. You will engage in social media about your niche. Perhaps you'll have speaking engagements related to it. And that will, over some time, not overnight, but over a period of time, depending on how active you are and how engaged you are in the opportunities that are focused in that particular area, open up opportunities for you to get more meetings, to get more recognition, and to eventually become that go-to person for your industry, for your location, for your legal service practice. But you want to, as you go through this process, you want to test it. Is this working for you? So these considerations as you're identifying your niche. You want to consider the industry. You want to consider your revenue. You want to consider your legal services. Industry, revenue, legal services. Cleo says that. They have a blog on it. But it's not bad advice. This is true. You also want to consider that client journey and how they find you. But don't just be settled for it. Test, measure. Is it going well? Are you accomplishing what your goals are set out to be? And then adjust. If it's not working out, if you need to shift your focus, if something has changed in the industries that you're working in, or the legal services you're providing, or the regulatory environment, and you need to make a change, you can. But that specificity will certainly help you be found in a sea of lawyers that are trying to compete for the same corporate clients and corporate dollars. It will help you with visibility, it will help you with credibility, and it will help you with your digital marketing strategy, which is how people are finding representation now. So if you have questions about how to specify, how to find your niche, what your unique selling points are, then reach out to us. We'll do our best to help you. solutions@firmforward.com. Follow us on social media everywhere at FirmForward. And we'll do our best to connect with you and help you figure out what that looks like. Actually, this just reminds me that we went through this exercise yesterday. I've been attending the Alt Legal Connect conference, which is great. If you haven't ever considered it and you have a trademark practice or you're an IP practitioner kind of looking for, another platform to find people and meet with them, this is actually a very interesting, effective conference, and it's virtual for the second time. It's called Alt Legal Connect. Alt Legal is a docketing software platform that I really like. I find it streamlined, modern, and very easy to use. And I did a workshop with this company yesterday where we were focusing on bios and drafting what your bio looks like, how to communicate what that bio is effectively. And some of the things that we covered there kind of resonate for this too. Finding your niche, but communicating it in your bio is really important. This is also part of how you're found, is to include that niche everywhere you are. Is that in your title on LinkedIn itself? Is that Are you consistent across your social media channels with that niche and what you do and who you are? And are you memorable for it? So when you're considering your niche, maybe you can even figure out a way to market it that's unique, that is memorable, not just like the divorced dad example, but even in IP, there are some examples. There's that one guy in California who uses profanity to advertise his cannabis practice, and wow, it's effective. I will not forget the cannabis lawyer who swears. And that's who he is everywhere. So if you're looking for something like that, this is definitely a consideration, an exercise that could be beneficial for you to figure that out. So the next couple of weeks are going to be a little strange for us because we have holidays on the days that we are usually live with lists. And we're still figuring that out. Maybe it'll be recorded. Maybe you might just have to miss me. And if so, then we'll come back. Oh, Elizabeth, thank you so much for saying that. I really appreciate your encouragement, and I hope people find this helpful week after week. Anyway, enjoy the rest of your week, everyone, and see you next time on Live with Liz. Bye for now.